It's fun because you're the first person actually that I got to discover through a book. And I see how you are, so I guess I know a few things. Because there are people that, I came here and I don't know them at all. But, and I got better at speaking and talking, conversation with even strangers. I guess we all do it in business world too, because you have to go pitch to people, and then you have to sit down, have a drink, have a meal, and if the person doesn't talk, then you have to make the person talk. You're trying to close a deal, so you have to discover the person. You make them talk, ask them a bunch of questions. So I guess this is where I have the ability to be able to discuss and conversate with people I don't know. But It's fun at the same time when you get to discover the person when you know.
Yeah. I mean, I'm very vulnerable in my books. I'm kind of an open book. Let's put it that way.
Yes, you are. Yes, you are.
I share a lot of, I'm very transparent because I think people wouldn't be able to relate as much. I try to be the most human as I can. So the first two books, The Thin Lines and See True, I'm just,
So which one did you do first?
Actually, I wrote them both in the same year, which I don't understand how. I was working full-time in a hospital.
Oh, yeah?
And building a supplement company and doing research. I don't understand that year of my life. But first one was The Thin Lines. So I had a previous startup, closed that. The chapter of the first startup kind of closed with that book.
Mm-hmm.
And then See True, it's kind of channeled. It's weird. It just came to me. I was like, a month after I published The Thin Lines, I was sitting on my balcony in Saint-Agathe-des-Monts, and I was writing. And just I'm like, whoa, I just wrote 25,000 words. Like, whoa, okay. That's another book. So kept on working on it, obviously continuing, and because it's a longer book than the first one. Mm-hmm. Went through the process. So once you go through the process, a bit like a business, once you go through a business, the same basics are the same. And I published the second one. The same year.
2020 or 2021?
2021.
Yeah, because it's very, very up to date, the information.
Yeah, it's very
How long
recent.
did it take you to write?
I don't that morning. I don't know what happened to me when I wrote that. When I say channel, it's I don't understand where it came from. It was just okay, and so a couple of months because I launched The Thin Lines in May, and in June, See True was getting worked on, and I published See True December 12th.
Let me see what we have here. And it's easy to read, too. It wasn't complicated.
Nice. That was my biggest, because it's a bit of medical terms and stuff,
exactly.
So I tried to make it easy.
So you're an artist.
I'm a creator.
A creator, yeah.
I'm really a creator. I love creating. You see it in my social media. For me, it's super easy. Doing a TikTok takes me 2 minutes. I'm just always on the go, doing stories. People are like, how did you just post that? I was just with you. I'm like, it just happens. I just get these ideas and it comes all the time. And creating was, super easy for me.
And were you always creative? Did you start, let's say, when you were young? Did you create stuff?
Honestly, I started writing when I was 8 years old. So I was in elementary school and I was first of class. I was kind of a good student.
Oh, you were a geek.
I am a geek.
Nerd.
I'm a very geek person. I'm the typical A student. I don't hide it. The grades are there. It's it was easy for me. And in elementary school when I was 8, I won this little prize for being the first in class. And it was a journal.
Okay.
So since then, I started writing things and I started just writing all the time. And I was really writing my emotions, writing a lot of things, digging into my emotions. So it's if my self-growth journey started very early, mm-hmm. where I was digging. I'm like, this is how I feel today. And because I went back to see them and because I was curious. And it just kept on going. And I think that gave me a lot of ease to write these two.
Okay.
Because I have an ease to express. I never thought of, I do have a blog, but the books were something I always wanted, and it just came. There's a third one that's going to come possibly next year.
I can imagine seeing you on your streak, hey, I already wrote a book. I can't stop it. My hands are just flowing, going away.
Kind of.
But that's fun.
I still do write in my journals every day now. So it's, yeah.
So you have a lot in your mind. Did you come from? How was your background, your childhood? Let's say, was it like a good family, or maybe like some adversities?
I think everyone has some adversities to a certain extent.
You have siblings?
It's funny, I don't necessarily speak about my.
That's what I do.
Okay,
That's
okay,
what
okay.
I do. I discover.
You want to know more about me? Okay.
But you see, all right, hold on. But that's the thing. Since I read the book, I got to know your reading. Now I'm like, all right, why does she think like that? What is there's so many like personal things I find. Why does she see things like that? And you know what?
I have been through, I could say a lot, but I think everyone does. Like, it's not like who went through more or whatever. I did go through a lot. Family, my parents had got divorced when I was 15. I was the kind that really was going out a lot. So I don't even know how I made it to pharmacy to a certain extent, because I was like really partying all the time, and started working when I was 14. I was a gymnastic coach. So took that route, and like it was just easy for me. Like, I wasn't studying, and I would get 95%.
So you were that good kid, like the parent that's like, yeah, my kid is a genius.
Kind of, but not in school. Like, I wasn't really respectful. I had a phone. I was the first one with a cell phone. I was at a girls' school. I had an attitude.
All right, you went to a girls' school
in Montréal Nord, so it's like I was in the hood. I was going out. I was like not really studying a lot, and the teachers really didn't really like me because I was good, and they're like, "How is she good if she's like always talking?"
So they can't regulate you because you back yourself up with good grades. And like,
so I'm like, leave me alone. So I had the good grades. So when I got to college, then my first exam in French, I got 35%. So I'm like, oh, now I need to study. That was a slap. So, and then math and physics and all that was always easy. But then I started studying, and I started working, and I started working in sales. I was good in sales. I was having fun, but always working. And I don't know why I always kind of knew I wanted to be a pharmacist in high school. It's like, yeah, I never really questioned that too much. And I just persisted. I'm someone who's like driven. So
you went to l'UDM?
UDM, Université de Montréal. So I did a doctorate. Sorry?
Biology?
Biology?
Ouais, well,
I did a first year in biochemistry.
Biochemistry, yeah, my bad.
So that, I think it's biochimie. Yeah, correct.
Biochemistry.
So that it boosted up my grades, because my French cost me a lot in college. So that boosted up my grades, and I got in pharmacy, finished pharmacy. And when I finished pharmacy, I didn't know what I wanted to do. I was going to actually move to Australia. I don't know why.
Where are you going? You see, there's something. That's why I'm asking like these random, maybe personal questions.
Maybe it's my, I've always been someone who has dreams, who sees things differently.
So you were a party girl, I guess. Were you like the popular girl, or were you maybe the outcast?
We were a group. Still miss that group. So we were a group of girls always going out. Like, I never did lines to go to clubs. It was easy. I was like...
You're attractive.
Thank you.
So that helps.
But it was just like, I just knew everyone kind of thing. I was always out. But that changed a lot with my life and the circumstances. So I studied, then I finished pharmacy, and I didn't know what to do, and then I had my ex-boyfriend who was here. He had a contract up north in a hospital in La Sarre, like Rouyn-Noranda.
Oh.
It's like 8 hours drive from Montreal.
Damn.
And I'm like, okay, so I ended up staying and doing a master's degree in advanced pharmacotherapy, because you need that to work in hospitals. So I did that. Halfway through, I was going to quit. And I went to the director's office, and I'm like, because they give you a grant, and for the grant, you have to work 2 years in a hospital, and like there's some limitations. Like, they give you a grant, but you have to do things after. Me, I just wanted freedom. I think freedom is one of my biggest drives, really.
Yeah, our generation is very freedom oriented. Yeah. If you don't give it to me, ciao, bye.
So I ended up saying, like, listen, I don't want the grant. I'll give you back the money. I don't want anything. She's like, no, you're a good pharmacist. You're this, you're that. I'm like, okay, so I don't want to work 2 years after. So I ended up negotiating with the government, because it's a government grant. So I'm like, I'm able to negotiate with the government.
So you negotiated. I didn't even know you can negotiate with them.
Exactly. So this changed my mindset. Like, everything was happening to me in a way like, okay, if I can negotiate with the government, like, I can negotiate with everyone. So I'm like, I was able to not have to work in a hospital as an employee. And I'm like, okay, this is actually not so bad. So it changed my mindset. Things were happening, and and then I had my first startup. So I could keep going. My story's long.
No, definitely. I mean, we could link ourselves in between. And something too, like in myself, I might not look like it, but I almost went to the biochemistry field too, only because I was not good in math, but I was good in math. I was good in science. And that was in high school. I was just confused. What am I going to do? Like, I was delinquent in that stage of life, around there. But I had a good background, a good family. Well, actually, I was living with my aunt, and my influence was my cousin, my older cousin. She's like a big sister. So her boyfriend, they were studying biochemistry. So I would see them. I'm 18, they're 22, 23, studying biochemistry. So I'm questioning myself, what am I going to do out of my life? So I'm like, should I go there? Their books are already there, so I don't have to buy them again.
It's a good investment.
Exactly. Like, you know what? Let me take your book that you paid, like, I don't know how much.
Yeah.
So, and I had the grades to do it, to get in too. Although I even failed a few classes, but I had the grades. I don't know how. So I was questioning myself if I should go that way. But ended up not. So I did have like an interest behind it. But them, like my cousin herself, and she ended up, she's a pharmacist too.
Okay, cool.
And her husband now they're still together from there, and he's a medical rep. So
cool.
Had positive influences.
Yeah, in that domain.
Yeah.
Cool.
So that's, the pharmacy side of me. Yes. So, and you have a doctor title.
Correct.
And that's your master's, or you have
no? It's a doctorate. It's a first degree doctorate, and it's a PharmD that they call.
Okay.
So it's 164 credits, I believe, and they didn't really change it. So I did the master's after. So it's a doctorate for everyone now that's graduating as a pharmacist, and you do the master's after if you want to specialize in something specific. Okay. Which I did for hospital settings.
All right. I might have to just a cut in between. Like I said, this is a pre-recording. How do I introduce you? How would you like me to introduce you?
Oof.
Stephanie
Elle, yeah.
Yeah.
Stephanie Elle. Do you want me to say my? She pharmacist, entrepreneur, scientist, author,
speaker.
I have a lot.
That's good. We're piling up too. Me too. Like I'm piling up a few titles.
I have a lot on my belt.
And do you want to be, let's say, a grand speaker when you?
I know I will.
I like the spirit. I like that.
There's a difference.
I know that. I know I will.
There's a difference in knowing and in manifesting. I wrote about this. So on a spiritual standpoint, it's very different. Knowing something, sometimes there's things that you don't want to know. Mm-hmm. Manifesting is something different. Manifesting is,
I want to get it.
Yeah, but it's not going to happen if you don't want to get it for the right things. So it's a lot of work. Manifesting is not like I want $1 million. If you just do that, it's not going to work out. And that's why people contradict and say, oh, manifestation doesn't work. Of course it doesn't work, because it takes enormous amount of energy and work, because you have to match that frequency, and you have to do it for the proper time, for the proper reasons. So, and what are proper reasons? That's another question.
Because right now I'm just thinking about, let's say, because manifesting for the right like you said, you're not going to get it if you do it for the wrong reason.
Correct.
I'm thinking about that just because earlier today I had a conversation with a guy who told me he got invited to a podcast just like I did with you, but the podcaster were charging him.
Oh, wow.
So imagine if I tell you to come to Yellow Sea podcast and it's going to be $350 US. So they were charging him.
But do they have like a massive visibility?
None.
Okay, no.
They have none. And then we just went into that rabbit hole discussing, like how do you, I was just giving him my feedback about it, how I manage, let's say, the podcast. And at first, you want to be, I guess, I want it to become a podcast. So I guess the title is coming when people start calling you podcaster. Mm-hmm. I guess you don't become, as a title wise, I mean, in your case, I mean, you earned due to your diploma, your study, your research, everything you did. But it's other titles, I guess. Do you get, hold on, I'm trying to, let's say the title of a speaker. Do you become a speaker? Do you call yourself a speaker, or people call you a speaker because you've done it so many times?
Okay, I'll give you an example. I know I'm a speaker, and this is something I want. So I put it already. I am a speaker.
Okay. So you're manifesting.
You can consider that as manifestation, yes.
Okay.
Second thing is, now there's different types of speaking. I just know I'm going to be a speaker in front of a huge crowd.
Yes.
That's just a weird knowing. I don't know when. I don't know. Like, there's a lot of things I don't know. My TED on Friday was something I knew in September.
Okay.
It's in my journals. So my journals kind of keep up. My mom's a bit
you
traumatized.
Write. So you write, let's
see
say,
things.
you have journals.
I see things.
Now go ahead. I'm following you. Let's go on
I
it.
do
Let's
have
go.
a bit of spiritual journey, which I will speak about tomorrow at TED. So this is why I'm strongly inviting you.
You want to talk about it right now?
No, I can't. Tomorrow.
Tomorrow?
Yes.
So that's a controversial part? So
Getting there.
I can get a...
There's more. But I am... people contact me on my DMs a lot for me to coach them.
Okay.
And when I coach them, it works. Same thing, like yesterday, one of my mentees called me. She's like, I just closed a $7,000 deal. And I'm coaching her on abundance and the whole mindset and all that. I'm like, oh, okay. I don't call myself a coach. People call me a coach.
Okay.
Do I want that title? I think I am.
But it's not the one that you manifesting.
It's not the one that I necessarily want, but it's like the universe is guiding me towards it. So am I shutting it down? Like, that's when you have to listen. You're like, okay, some people are seeing, same thing with public speaking. People are seeing something that I don't necessarily see in me yet. So I'm like, okay, there's something there that I should explore more.
So that's why I say, like, do you give yourself the title and you become it, or people just end up giving you that title?
It depends. It's a two-way thing.
Because I find, like, let's say, if I'm not it, but I give myself that title, so that could be, let's say, a fake it till you make it approach.
I don't believe in that.
Never?
I don't.
You never did that?
No, I don't fake. I'm super vulnerable. Like, I don't fake it till you make it, because the moment I'm strongly authentic, and I believe in authenticity.
But if you are a speaker,
I have spoken.
So once you started doing this,
I was paid to speak many times.
Okay, so when you started doing it, say exactly like, so did you give yourself the title of speaker once you started doing it, or even prior to that?
No, I just knew. I think I didn't know when, and when things started happening, I just added it to my bio.
Okay. Yeah, I'm trying to see like the pattern. At the same time for myself, like how do I position myself?
What do you want?
For myself?
Yes.
I'll tell you how I started naming myself. Let's say the title.
No, what do you want?
Me? Shit. Educator.
Okay.
Something beyond podcaster.
Okay.
Conferencer, I guess. There's going to be some public speaking in my title.
So write them down and figure out what you want to be, because that's what's going to help you define the title.
I guess that works too, because I have written, like, it's interesting you say that, because I don't write stuff, but I have written stuff that when I've read it after, oh, it happened.
Yeah.
Like, I wrote quite a few business plans, and I give myself some goals, projection, forecasting, and all this, and this one I want to do. And when I reread them months after, it happened. So let's say for the podcast, I wrote in 2021, I wrote a business plan for it because we're applying for grants and things like that. It was in January. And within that business plan, in September, we're going to have a studio, because this the growth is expected to be. In September, we had a studio. And I reread that like around October-ish.
Yeah.
And I was like, oh, okay, there's something.
Things happen.
But it wasn't in my mind. I wrote it to write it, because I wanted to put a...
Yeah, but you implanted that.
Okay.
And it's subconscious.
Subconscious.
It's subconscious.
Exactly.
That's what people don't... Like, it's a lot of subconscious work.
It
a
is.
lot. And this is what's difficult about it.
And that's why I'm very confident. Like I was talking to you right on our way here. I'm the type of person who just does things, doesn't think.
I'm the same.
I just don't even... and people got used to this behavior of mine. Like my producer you're going to meet, he knows if I'm calling him at 6 a.m, something is going to happen. He's like, we're getting to some shit.
That's cool. I mean, I believe in that. People ask me, like, what's your plan? I'm like, intuition. And they start laughing, and I'm like, you don't believe me? Okay, watch.
Have you done an the test, the personality test, the 16 personalities?
Maybe.
MBTQ, how is it called?
I think I'm ENF. No, I don't even remember.
Takes a sec. Like this two, the were E's. I'm an E, obviously.
Honestly, it's been a while.
This intuition, exactly, because there's intuition and rationality. Is it that?
I'm both.
The opposite?
Which is very difficult.
Me too, I'm both.
I'm super logical with my research. So it was my TED's gonna spirituality slapped me in the face.
Well, you see, I'll pull out the spirituality thing from you.
You can. Because it's something I haven't shared much yet in terms of my social media, but I think it's something people want to hear more, because I've been dragged into negative stuff too. I've grown out of things too. There's a reason why I don't listen to anyone and I listen to my intuition, because I was misguided. There's a lot.
You're religious?
I don't consider myself religious. I don't believe in like a
higher power, like a
I do
being.
believe in a universe and something else. Like I literally question myself. I'm like, are my thoughts mine? I don't know. I don't know if my thoughts are coming from me. Like we're so attached to them, but is it really coming from me? Like, because I do get images of other things that are messages for other people.
So do you believe in the simulation theory?
I don't believe in theories.
But
simulation is like assuming that someone else is simulating. And who is that? It.
Like the idea that we're living in a computer,
no.
And this is something like some geek like just playing around, a 16-year-old just playing around. And
I haven't.
This is map.
I'm someone who's never gonna disregard a theory without me personally knowing it, because I've experienced too much of I'm a contrarian, so I go against contrarian. Someone that goes against like the popular beliefs.
Yeah, the status
but I am
quo.
a contrarian on the other side too.
I've noticed. I noticed.
So if you tell me like, I don't attach myself to a specific belief, like, because religion have a specific. I'm not against Jesus. Like I was born Orthodox Catholic.
But that's the thing, because we have a culture. We're in this culture that have strong religious belief.
Correct.
But I find our generation kind of slowly drifting away from those thoughts, only because I find that, let's say me in Latin America, they Catholics. They strongly believe in Jesus and all that. But me is like, my mother gave me the option. Like, if you want to believe in it.
Yeah.
This is the door if you want to go to church.
Yeah.
If you don't want to go to church, believe in something. And tell me if this goes with something that you're saying. Me, I feel spiritual at the same time. And when spiritual, I find that it's like believing in something. I don't know what it is. So I tend, when people ask me, what do you believe in? I answer me. Because everything that I'm able to, everything that I accomplish is not because some other extra power. It's because me, I did it. I went forward with it. I just planted the seeds, put the bricks up. So is that like a mindset of individualism?
And yeah.
But does believing in you as a spiritual, is it something that you feel like you?
If I believe in myself, like now I don't negotiate my intuition. If I have a bad vibe, even though you're an amazing person, it has nothing to do. I just have a bad vibe, and my vibe is always right.
I like that. I'm intuitive.
My vibe is always right. And sometimes it's not what I want.
When did you learn that your intuition is always correct?
I mean, I got slapped many times in my startup. Like, I had people as advisors that sold their companies for billions of dollars. I was pitching internationally, and I'm like, I was getting misdirected. So that was the first step of understanding, like, hey, it's not because you sold a company for $1 billion that you know better than me for my own business. So I'm like, okay, so the advisory, the coaching, all that started getting, like, annoying me. And I'm like, why am I listening to everyone else? I knew that what I wanted to do. So it led to a lot of things in terms of, like, they must know more than I do. So I came from that world. And then I'm like, okay, but this happened to me again with healthcare, with my personal health and my personal challenges. I was listening to everything that I was reading instead of listening to my own body. So I'm like, why am I listening to every paper? Like, same thing, I was vegan, I changed because I was following a trend. So I'm like, what?
So you're doing for the trend?
Because not the trend per se, but you believe it's right.
But you believe that's okay.
This is health because that's what they portray.
Do you think that a lot of people that have switched to veganism is because of a trend, or maybe exactly for that same exact
That's
mindset?
the difference. I'm not going to say what's good or what's bad, because some people, it did heal them. Some people, it did amazing results to them, and they should continue.
Mm-hmm.
But for those who are just following it because they believe that that's the optimal health, I disagree.
Okay. Yeah, no.
You know what I mean? So I can't say veganism is good or bad. Veganism is good or bad depending on you. I help people listen to them. I help people self-rely on them. That's why the coaching industry, all these industries where I'm like, why am I going to listen to someone else if my intuition's saying something completely irrational to the general population, but I know. Mm-hmm. And when I started listening to my intuition, like, it's a bit crazy. Like, my mom has witnessed it, I think, the most, because things happen to me in a way where people are like, how? Like, what happened? Because I booked, for example, Montreal. I was in California, and my mind was just like, Montreal, Canada. I'm like, okay. So I booked Canada, and then the next day I got confirmed as a TED speaker.
Okay.
The next day I got here.
What I was going to say.
And I told you, I'm like, I don't know where I'm going to be yet.
Yeah, exactly.
So intuition is hard. I had to book 48 hours before I leave. Literally.
All right, I remember, because I'm trying to like pick some parts from your book too, and I'm seeing what you're saying approximately in what chapter.
It's yeah. The book is a lot on healthcare. Where go ahead.
This question. Listen to this one. Do you believe that once you start listening strictly to your intuition, it was the beginning of your awakening?
I had many awakenings.
Is that one of them?
It could be, yes. It's very hard to listen to your intuition. To be able to listen truly to your intuition, you have to have to understand the voices in your brain. You have to shut the voices that are not yours, be able to distinguish which one are yours and which one are not. And intuition is emotionless.
I follow you in everything you're saying only because I'm a weirdo like that in my head. Mm-hmm. I've spoken to these voices. Mm-hmm. I had to shut them off. Mm-hmm. And one, let's say, metaphor that I described that we've seen like multiple times in cartoons, you know, like the angel and the
That's
the
my
devil.
First book. I speak about those.
Okay.
These things, because the thin lines is the thin lines between what your brain could be saying in both ways.
Exactly. Well, I felt like that once I discovered maybe in my late teens, mm-hmm. that, you know, you have the angel and the dark voice. Yeah. And that was my late teens. I discovered that, and once I knew which one I should listen to and which one maybe I should avoid or whatnot, it started clicking on how to make these decisions, because, you know, like this one, I'm just going to shut it off. But sometimes, you know, the dark voice is the one that you want to shut off, but at the same time, the dark voice is the one that's going to push you to make, let's say, that leap of faith, mm-hmm. of things. And that one, it's interesting because you need to tame it like a lion. Let it loose, but need to know really when to come back.
Well, is it it just makes you, it's maybe really more you rather than calling it a devil or you know what I mean? Like sometimes, like I'll give you an example. I'm very scared because it's very controversial the trailer that I have for my TED. It's really going to trigger a lot of people.
No, I guess I'm going to have to go to your TED.
It's going to trigger a lot of people because there's things I don't believe anymore that the majority of the global population believes strongly. So I'm facing a lot of things. My knowing knows I have to do it. My fear, oh my God, I'm like, why am I doing this?
But you see, the reason why I question a bit of your childhood, because I wanted to see really
where it comes from.
Yeah, exactly. Because look, once I understood what's intuition. Intuition is a subconscious recollection of experiences that you know how to intuitively, let's say, recognize when this person doesn't feel right. Once your intuition tells you that this person doesn't feel right, it's because somewhere back in that...
Correct.
In your file of your memory, subconsciously, there's a person that did like that same behavior, and to you,
you're tapping into something. So I am an empath. I don't know if you know what that is.
No, tell me.
So an empath is someone that absorbs energies. I'm very sensitive.
A sponge.
A sponge. Sometimes I absorb the good and the bad, so it's very hard. So when I have a bad vibe, I know it's a bad vibe. Now I know. I'm very connected with my grandma. My grandma calls me. She's like, "You're not feeling okay." So
she's still alive?
Yes.
Yeah, obviously she called you. It depends. Maybe she was calling you some other world. I don't know.
But I do have this sense where I'm like, sometimes I would just crash and I'm like, what happened? I was physically okay, supplements work and everything. And I'm like, okay, there's something else here. Like there's energy. So an empath is someone that's going to be sensitive, feeling, and often it comes from a place where you've been in an environment where things were more conditional. So it's maybe a bit more cultural, where you have to do this to be a good girl or a good. So there were some conditioning in a home setting.
Were your parents strict?
They were, but they got to really know me.
Damn.
They were like, they were very like, but I never accepted like curfews. Like my dad's like, okay, yeah, by 12 a.m. you're home. I'm like, okay, cool. It was 1 a.m. I was still in the bus.
How old were you? 12?
16, and I was still going out like at 1, 2 p.m. like things I don't even do now. And at 18, I went to my dad. I'm like, Dad, I'm sorry. I think I made you go through a lot of things. I don't like rules. I don't like barriers. I don't like unjustified. Like for what? Like why? If I'm why? You know what I mean? If you have a specific reason telling me it's dangerous, not because it's dangerous for you, because now you're giving me your anxiety. Is it really dangerous for me? Or because you're scared you're going to inflict that on me? So I think there was a lot of awakening that happened too, because I was very often alone. So when I worked in hospitals, when I finished my master's degree, I was working in remote areas. I worked in 17 hospitals.
You talk to yourself at that point?
You're always alone.
Know yourself?
I started reading, like I read hundreds of books, like 300-400 books. Like I was reading all the time. I wanted to improve my English, which wasn't like that. And I was just learning and exploring. I'm like, whoa, there's other things than pharmacy in the world and things. And so my spiritual awakening started kind of earlier. And I was writing also
teens
on my...
Or in the 20s?
And my teens, like I was doing yoga when I was 16. Started meditating over 8-10 years ago. So like it before it became kind of trendy.
Okay.
I was doing all those things. Again, started journaling, and I didn't really understand that. I was literally trying to understand my emotions when I was a kid. So I'm like, okay. Because I asked myself too, I'm like, how do I get these things? So these intuitions too, like I started understanding the differences. There's things I knew, but I didn't listen. So
that was your intuition telling you, now go that way.
There's different things. It's very complex. Like spiritual, once you start understanding that, like the managing of all those took me a while. The managing of.
Well, I feel like similar in I agree, and I understand really what you're saying, many points, because you do like trying to understand things and you don't know why it's just happening when you're doing them.
But it saves you time. You know what I mean? Like I had a call this morning. I know I'm not going to do business with them. I'm not going to hustle. I'm not going to do the follow-up. I'm going to say thank you, because I know. The old me would have been like, no, you have to hustle, keep going. Like, what are you doing? Like no, I'm like, no, I just know. I'm going to get 10 more with someone else. So I'm like, why am I taking, like, but now I wouldn't listen before. So in business, it helps a lot in the relationships and in a lot of things. But again, because I'm a sponge and I sense a lot of things, I do need a lot of solo time. Because that's how I'm an introvert also. So I'm an introvert empath. So I'm very often alone, but I'm very happy with my brain. So
it's funny because like those tests, I guess, like they're a bit biased by now, because like the personality have just so much evolved with only 16 different personalities.
Yeah.
That I find at the same time I'm an extrovert, but introvert. I question myself when I saw the first time I did those tests. Like, am I an introvert really? Because I like to be alone.
I think everyone's a bit of both. I'm more of an intro, but I'm very good in PR. So
what is the other one that's related to feeling? Because this feeling, is it feeling, rationality, and intuition and
logic, maybe?
Logic, yes, logic.
I'm high in both, which was challenging.
All right, feeling or rationality? You're more rational, you said.
I can't now.
Are you emotional?
I'll give you an example. Like my post on, I didn't believe that vitamin D was related to the sun. I don't believe it's linked completely to sun exposure.
Oh, yeah, I want to get into
that. This is a massive theory. It's on my Instagram. So this is a massive theory that it's been 2 years I'm on this. 2 years. 2 years, I started reading. I'm like, something's not making sense. So I knew. I had a knowing. And that knowing It was like, okay, so now I have to prove it because the general population works with scientific evidence.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm like, how do I? So it took me years to follow that knowing, but I kept on sticking to it. So me not having stick to that knowing would not have led me to understand things and advance science and things. And my research is a lot about that. My research is just like, I know something's off there. I don't know how.
Well, yeah, definitely.
Now I have to figure it out.
Well, in your book, there's many things that are off. Many things. But are you? Do you consider yourself a stubborn? Obviously, I would say.
Stubborn is. It's not stubborn. It's just, again, my knowing has, has always been right. It's just, am I really stubborn, or are you stubborn to not have an open mind to maybe say maybe?
So you're very open-minded.
I'm very open-minded. Prove me wrong, I'll say you're right. I don't have a problem telling you you're right.
So you're the type of person that, like I could tell you, all right, like the theory, the simulation theory.
Mm-hmm.
You might not believe it, but all right, go ahead, talk. Tell me about it.
Sure, absolutely.
Maybe
I don't invalidate anyone or anything. I'm against like invalidation, and I call it kind of it's a bit of an abuse, maybe a big word to use, but like invalidating is just saying like you're right and I'm wrong. Like, how do you even know? Based on what?
Mm-hmm.
What someone told you? How do you know they're right and I'm wrong? What if I was more right than you? So it's just too much to say. Like, that's why the religion, like, who says that's the right religion? That's the right. So everything comes from, I really went deep in my book. I really questioned the core of my own knowledge for specific reasons. And then I'm like, why am I following this? The same way in business. Everyone says this is the way to do business. Like, no.
Well, you see, there's many things I've questioned myself too. And I find that you just push by reading your books. Many of your questions, I question them myself, but you seem to push them and even try and like go further to understanding what it is behind it. To me, there's certain things that I question it, but I didn't really push it trying to understand it why. But other topics, definitely, like, you know what, there's something that's just off. Doesn't make sense. Yeah. And I want to understand. I want to just try, give it a try. And that's why I find that having this entrepreneur mindset allows you to, jump into get things and try to understand.
I love risks.
You tolerate that 100%.
I have a very high tolerance for risk. I mean, I've traveled alone to 13 countries. Like, it's funny because my dad told me recently, like 2-3 days ago, he's like, you have a very high tolerance for risk. I don't know how you do it. I'm like, don't inject your fear on me. I'm good.
Don't.
I'm good. So, but now that's the thing. Like, now they understand. He's like, you take a lot of risk. I'm like, high risk, high reward. I'm like,
that's
I'm
how
good.
it is.
I don't feel like I'm taking too much risk. I feel good.
Hey, by the way, Mark, Stephanie.
Hi.
So as a producer, good vision.
Nice.
He understood the plan like day one. That's my day one.
Assignment.
Day one, like we met in some random circumstance. Do you believe in destiny? Circumstances? I don't know.
Correct.
Like,
yes, I do.
Like everything happened for a reason.
Yes.
Well, you see, it's weird. It's weird. I believe in things like that. And I find that the way we met is weird circumstances. We were in a Starbucks, and I'm sitting there, he's sitting there, and all of a sudden I peek into his computer, just being noisy. I'm like, hey, what are you doing? I started talking. That's how.
No way.
And ever since, and look at that. From that, hey, what are you doing?
It.
This is where we're up to now.
Oh my God, this is amazing. I love this.
And there's many people in this group of what has been built here, has been those type of circumstances. And we stick together. We stuck together since, I guess. Not to say we stick together, but we stuck together. And I guess something must be working out. Things must be aligned. And the same thing, like this podcast started in the basement. Who would have thought? We would have never thought we would be doing this in this space over here. I don't know. So I guess I ask question after.
I find it's powerful when you let it guide you. It's like I never woke up one day and say, I'm going to do that. I thought I was going to be a pharmacist all my life. Now I changed careers. And it's going to get even worse. Well, worse. Just more different.
Yeah.
In the next couple.
You're going to be on more of.
It's going to be different.
That's why I was questioning you to see if your intuition was an awakening and then what stage of your life did it happen. Because there's a few times that my intuition, and that's why I said I find it is a recollection of past experiences that subconsciously you're going to act on. And many experiences that I listen to people. I had my intuition, I had this gut feeling, but, you know, I listened to his advice because, you know, fuck it. Didn't work out.
No.
And when I started just doing, listen to this voice, this gut feeling, it worked out. Like, amazing. I found something. I found a key.
There's a difference between, because intuition is like on the events versus a knowing is on future sometimes. Like premonitions.
All right, take me there. You believe in premonition? Let's go there.
Really?
I don't know.
I mean, that's like I said, like I knew I was going to do a TED in April. Like it's literally written TED April. And I took a screenshot and I sent those to my mom because my mom.
Is that manifesting at a spiritual level?
Again, there's a difference in, like, there's things that I know will happen that I don't want to happen. And I'm trying to repress it.
Such as, is it negative or just like,
because when you're
scared of your own success?
No, that I've made peace with. You have to be able to shut those emotional traumas, challenges before you get to the point of manifesting, knowing, intuition, and all those. And that's what people don't get. Because if you're trying to manifest, but you have a bunch of trauma and you're like, I want to manifest like $1 million. Okay, but why do you want that?
Why?
Like, what are you going to do with it?
Because it's trendy.
Exactly. That's not going to work. And then you're going to be like, manifestation doesn't work. It's like full of, it's deeper. Like, I didn't know that I was going to change healthcare. My mind, it was more than a 360 degree. Like, I don't even, I didn't plan this. But I allowed to listen. I allowed to be guided. Mm-hmm. And same thing with my travels now. Like, I knew, I came home one day and when I was in Saint Agathe in March. It's crazy. It's weird. I'm like, okay, I'm leaving the country. That was in March 2021. I don't know where that came from. I'm like, okay, I'm leaving. Okay. So I started executing on that, knowing that image that came to me. Mm-hmm. And when you start executing, next thing you know, like a year after, I was out. Not even a year after. So, and now even now, I don't know what I'm doing in May. I feel there's a trip that's going either Europe or Cali. Like there's something in the UK, still not clear yet. So there's things I know that are going to happen, but I don't know where exactly. So I let it be. Sometimes it's hard because, like, as I said, I had to book a flight 48 hours before. She's like, you're always on the go, and it's a bit exhausting sometimes, but it's powerful. So the power it lifts, like my TikTok. I didn't expect 1.4 million views before I launched my book. It was before I'm like, oh my God, this just kicked off. And I gained a lot of followers from that. I'm like, okay, I think I'm on purpose. Because it pulls. Mm. It pulls in a way you don't expect. Mm-hmm. And it's hard because then you deal with all the hate and the good from social. You're like, okay, just 1.4 million people just saw me now. I'm like, okay, I need to absorb that. So it's cool, but it is challenging.
Since you know you're going somewhere at a certain pace, but you don't know when on the timeline, mm-hmm. Do you give yourself, let's say, a date objective, or you just give an approximate? Let's say I gave myself some goals. Let's say with the studio, for example, mm-hmm. Our rent agreement is still is for 2 years, so until at the end of 2023. Mm-hmm. So I gave myself, there's specific goals I need to reach before we renew over here, because those goals are going to be based on if I want to renew, or I'm just going to go step the game up to something. And I find, I want to step the game up to something else. I want it to grow something even bigger than mm-hmm. what it is. I give myself those, but sometimes there's other things.
But wait, you said something. That's what I pick up.
Okay.
So you said you want something bigger.
Yeah.
Right? Something's bigger is going to come.
Definitely, of course.
So you put a threshold of 2 years. Is it because something bigger is going to happen after 2 years and your subconscious is telling you that it's going to happen in 2 years and you're just getting ready?
Is that being spiritual? Or
it's listening.
It's listening. Okay.
I call it listening because those are things that, like, maybe there's something going to happen that's unexpected after 2 years. And that's going to be your decision maker. You don't even need to make a decision because it's going to happen to you.
Okay.
You know what I mean?
Yeah. I know what you mean.
It's like I did not. I'm trying to give you an example, but those are super powerful.
Well, you said in September you wanted to do a TED Talk.
I knew.
You knew.
I always knew I always wanted to write a book.
But you didn't give yourself, let's say, it's going to be in...
No, it came to me.
In spring 2022.
And I'm like, I wrote it. And it's funny because...
So that's why you write.
When I was in Cali, I met someone, I'm like, there's TED on my agenda in April. And we were April,
how did you
like,
write that
first.
in April?
I don't know.
But something...
No,
is just something
that's
random?
my spiritual side that I haven't disclosed much yet.
Is it like you just close your eyes and write, like a Ouija board?
I do channel some stuff. Are you ready to get there?
No, let's go.
It's a different topic. It's
let's
really
go,
different.
because, like I said, in my business plan, didn't expect none of it. I just wrote this. January is going to be this, and then in September, end of summer, beginning fall, we're going to be in a new space, because that's how it is. It happened. That's why you look at it. I don't even pay attention. You look at it, you're like, oh shit. So you become all right. So you
it's
become
powerful.
Yes, because now
it's
you
very
become
powerful.
There's a question that I don't want to forget that's going to emerge from this.
That's how I coach, because I pick up. I can see through, and I'm like, oh, and I know when someone's misaligned. It's weird. It's like and it worked out because I knew, like, my mentee, she calls me, and it's exactly what I see for her, and she got 7K deal, and the rest is not. I'm like,
but there's one deal that's going to get you there.
Keep on that track. That's a good track. It's pulling you. Can't you see it's easy? Why are you struggling on the other things? This is easy. But life is not supposed to be hard.
All right. So one thing I do find that we have in common so far is that we are able, let's say, we are able to realize really what we said we're going to do in some shape or form.
Yeah. I'm an executor. You seem like that too.
Yeah. Actually, like
I'm very fast execute. People are like, how did you? I don't know.
I blindly execute.
Yeah.
In the dark with my hands tied.
Yeah.
I don't know. It happens. Just happens. Like
correct.
The weirdo in me. But I find that, because as we talking about this, I find that what if we take the habit to always, let's say, look at the timeline and right at this point, this is going to happen. And subconsciously, we just forget about it. And it happens only because you just wrote it, but without even thinking why you chose this moment in life.
Okay.
Do you think this is a skill that you can develop at the spiritual level?
Absolutely. Yes.
Okay.
But you got to be willing.
Yeah, no, of course.
Because sometimes
you have to be willing.
You got to be willing because it pulls in a way that sometimes it's uncomfortable because it pulls. Like I wasn't, and I know the universe is gauging because 82,000 followers in like a matter of a month. I was like that's a lot. Yeah. I wasn't expecting. It's cool. Don't take me wrong. And I speak about like there's some things about success or what people consider success that are difficult to manage too, because you lose some people. Some people get jealous. You get envious. I had complaints filed against me. I had to deal with a lot of things. I had lawyers, things that.
That's when you know it works.
That's when you know it works, but it's still like pulling you down. So it's negative energy trying to block you, but they don't like the way I do research is extremely intense. Like, and that's where they saw like I'm not a danger to the public, right? So I'm like, okay.
But we need people like that. We need these.
Thank you.
I find you that I would say you're a weirdo, just like me.
I love it.
And in high school you didn't want to have that title. You didn't want to have that title, and then you started realizing like, hey, why everyone is just not normies.
Yeah.
You have the normies, and why am I doing things so differently? And why people don't understand? And that's why you find, and let's say in your teenager, you find to be an outcast. You don't understand. People don't even follow you. People make fun of you.
Yeah.
But then at one point, it's like, make fun of me. I'm not going to change this habit. I'm not going to follow that trend or you guys.
But that's hard.
The weirdo being in myself. And I'm going to find other weirdos to embark in this journey.
I think everyone's some sort of a weirdo, but they don't necessarily. I like that term, by the way. They don't necessarily listen.
Your next book.
Being a weirdo.
Being a weirdo.
I like that.
That's seller.
So if people don't listen, it's very hard because you have to like there's, and I speak about this in See True, the conformity and that
Conformity.
desire of being accepted, that desire, like, I knew I was going to create some chaos by standing up for what I believe. Because people are like, who does she think she is? Yeah, but who do you think you are? So it's like, you need that level of confidence to be able to confront a mass, especially, that is like just wanting to put you equal to everyone. And it doesn't mean that I'm higher or whatever. You're just different. Like, you're taking it a different route. I don't like to compare in terms of, it takes a lot. It takes gut. It takes courage. And that's in my first book. So I think it's like a gradual, like, it takes courage to be who you are, because you need to love yourself more than loving being loved. So you need to accept and say, this is me. Like, now it's non-negotiable. Like, now I'm just like, okay. It's just like, I got to a point where I don't even react anymore.
Same.
It's
cool.
It's
just
weird.
try.
Let's put it that way.
What is your definition of success? Like, at what point do you look at yourself in the mirror and like, I made it?
No, I made it.
But
I always strive.
Isn't it boring to just say right now I made it, because there's another level to things? Like, you don't want to stop.
I see life
you
different,
didn't stop here.
and I'm not gonna stop. I'm just beginning.
Exactly. So you didn't
But
make
that it's not gonna define my success. Like, I find.
Let me rephrase.
Okay.
At 55 years old, what are you doing? Where are you? What is your status there at 55?
I'm an impact-driven person. So I'll be sharing more wisdom and knowledge and helping people in a different way. I'm going to have kids.
Where are you living?
First thing that came to mind was California.
And like I said, you know what?
I don't know. It's the first thing that came to mind. I'm not going to question it. I'm like, but I've been being pulled. Like, I came from Cali, but I have a feeling I'm going to go back to a certain extent at some point. I don't know when yet.
But what's the first thing that we got into the phone call and I told you, and I said to you, you look like you're from Miami or Cali.
But yeah,
that energy, just
what
like
I guess. So I there's something pulling me back to Cali. I don't know where, how, when.
But you see, I was gonna say, even initially, I wasn't even going to say Miami. I was gonna say you look like you're from Cali. Something, I don't know. I said Miami only to give myself the benefit of more odds to win the right answer.
But you see, like, I listen, because sometimes you do get messages from people around you. It's said, I started understanding this where I'm like, oh, it was a message that came through for me.
Do you answer to every messages? Like, I wrote to you a message on, I think
on Instagram?
I
do my best,
LinkedIn.
Yes.
On LinkedIn, that's
I do my best because, like, now I can. I still manage my whole social media on myself. Like, I just hired someone that's going to start for Joulance, for my supplement brand company. I
encourage it.
Thank you.
I have
Thank you.
I don't know if she's going to come, but I have a coordinator that takes care of the Yellow Seat
okay, cool.
social media.
Sure.
It helps.
Sure. I mean, yeah, I
encourage people to do that. If you have at this level, you're like this person, and you have something going on behind, and you need to take care of your social media, have someone that's going to manage at least the operational part of the social media. You take care of, let's say,
I need to answer the DMs, though, because
exactly.
I get personal questions. I get healthcare questions. I get a lot of those. People ask me questions about the products. So those I want to answer. I will build a team of healthcare too. There's more coming up that I'm just trying to manage in terms of how am I going to do this. There's another project coming along in the next couple of months.
The question that I had for you.
Yes.
Senses. So there's something in you that you found that you master, you skill that we cannot see as intangible. I guess there's something myself too that there's something, I don't know. We have 5 senses, but I believe we have 6 senses. There's a 6th sense, and that one is just like optional, or just, like a candy machine, and choose which one you want and try to perfection it as you get better, as you understand it, that you have it. Do you have one? Because I know you spoke about it.
A 6th sense?
Yeah. Do you feel like you have one?
Maybe there's more than 6. How do you know?
We'll begin with 6 because that one doesn't have a name, and then we'll discover the other ones.
Yes.
So you believe we have more than 6 senses?
Yes, I speak about it in my book. There's hundreds that we don't even know about yet.
Do you relate those other senses at a higher dimension? Ooh.
I find like that's the thing. I don't like the labels and the whole like 5D, 4D and stuff like that.
Yeah.
That like cool.
But do you understand those?
But like it's like for me, it's just like labels and how to make a way to communicate something that is difficult to communicate because it's intangible. So I don't necessarily, because everything's man-made when you think about it. So every theory is man-made. And if I didn't believe in that man-made science completely as well, I wouldn't be able to question the whole even vitamin D theories and theories that are believed by the societal mass. So believing all these theories and all these things that people come up with, including religion, including simulation, including those, everything's so I put a benefit of the doubt, not that I invalidate, I just put a benefit of the doubt on every single thing that is man-made, including what I make.
So everything is man-made. Which came first, the chicken or the egg?
I don't think we'll ever have an answer for that.
Do you believe in evolution?
Yes.
Would you say that's how everything happens?
I can't answer that.
I'm not gonna.
It's not that it's too far. I don't think anyone would ever know. So
you think we never know?
I don't think we'll ever know, and I think we're striving to find something that we don't have an answer, or
meaning?
No one will have an answer for.
A higher meaning to things.
I think because it becomes difficult to live on planet Earth when you start getting, like, I had a phase where it was very difficult because you get to a point where you question every single thing, and you're like, but what am I doing here then? It's like really a deeper existential question. What does it really make to know where you come from? Is it going to change how you're going to live?
So we don't have anywhere else to go for now.
Exactly. So why are you looking for where you came from? And is that going to define how you're going to continue to live? If I tell you came from an egg, or you came from evolution, or for chemical balance, or for, like, what is that going to change? Are we looking just for an answer for our consciousness because we're unable to deal with uncertainty or with things we don't know?
And do you question up to that level where where things come from, or you just don't even bother with it and rather focus on?
I focus on
what
things
you can do.
I can change.
Okay.
Exactly. There's things I went there. I went into the rabbit hole. But there's a skill I discovered on myself and that I was told and that I understood that I could do something with. So in terms of healthcare, my research skills, I can find things that people don't.
Is that your sixth
sense? I can
sense?
figure out. That's my intuition guides my research. That's why I say I do intuitive research. And again, there's things like I just know, and then I have to prove it for the common mortal how it works, because that's how society still works. Mm-hmm. A sixth sense is more than one specific thing. I think it applies because I have that in relationships too. I have that in coaching. So it's like an extra.
It's a flair.
It's something I deeply worked for.
Do you understand it?
Now I do, and I'm still working on it.
So now that you understand that it's there, now you can develop on it.
Absolutely.
Oh.
Absolutely. But you got to start understanding, and it's very difficult. I speak about this in my TED.
I'll push it.
But there's things I haven't said yet here.
Okay. Yeah, no, I'm pretty sure. I'm pretty sure. I'm just digging, like.
It's okay. So yeah, there's things that it's a constant thing. Like, it's not gonna end in terms of growth and understanding things. So it's always something there's always something to develop, to perfect, to work on, to understand. Cheddar.
Yo, I have so many.
There's a very spiritual side of me that I haven't shared yet with the world, and this is because I will, and I think I'm just waiting for the TED to kind of be the opening.
TED is like the
TED
one,
is big.
The event that's going to break the ice for you.
It's going to change my life. It's a knowing.
Damn, I have to go then. Now you sold
it's
it to
mostly
me.
going to be in May because it's going to be online then. But there's
it's all right. The way you position it, is this going to be the big awakening?
Why do we need a definition of awakening?
I don't know.
Is just a word that everyone's using now because there's people that are just waking up to the difference of the like how you are thought and changing the way to think and realizing that they have more abilities and understanding traumas and understanding.
Yeah, well, I find that mainstream wokeness.
Correct. It's a mainstream. You said it.
Mainstream wokeness.
I'm a contrarian. So
I don't subscribe to that. I don't.
Okay, being like that's why I say I've had several awakenings. It's like there's one where you realize things. I've realized things in my relationships. I've realized things with my parents. I've realized I had awakenings, like so many.
Yeah, no.
And every one you just start having different views. And my last awakening was the awakening of my spirituality within my spirituality. That was the deepest one that I've ever been through.
Do you consume anything?
I don't. I'm high on life.
Shit like that. Would you try it? LSD?
No, actually, I was proposed a lot of mushroom. I'm not against like all those things because I was in Tulum even, and there's a lot of DMT combo and stuff like that. I do research; it intrigues me.
But what if it take it to the next level of your?
No, I'm scared. My intuition tells me no, because I'm already high without that. So I can't imagine how I would be on that. And I don't need a substance. I'm able to get like people would describe. We're getting into that. What people describe me on substances, sometimes I have without substances. So my intuition tells me not to do that, and I'll leave the rest for Ted. So I do research in terms of, let's change to something.
Vitamin D. What's a big thing with vitamin D that really doesn't come from solar?
That doesn't like that. I even sell vitamin D. There's different things about vitamin D. Like you need vitamin D with K1 and K2. This is something that I strongly believe is important because vitamin D increases the absorption of calcium, and vitamin K1, K2 makes sure that calcium goes at the right place within your body. And it prevents like heart problems and stuff like that. Now, if you're taking any medication, make sure to check before because vitamin K has interactions. This said, I was reading a lot. There's something that's going to come up with melanoma. Melanoma is a type of skin cancer. I did a sunscreen review 2 years ago. I just was questioning the whole concept of sunscreens.
Questioning.
I love question. I'm a philosopher. Like I question everything. So I'm like, wait a second. But actually, this is what I do. I pick up on inconsistencies in humans and in research. So I know when someone's inconsistent, someone's inauthentic, and even they're like, no, I'm authentic. I'm like, okay, wait 2 years. And then 2 years, they're like, you were right. So I pick up on things that there's something off. Mm-hmm. And I do this in research because I read enormous amount of research, like 200 scientific articles to come up with something, for example. So when I read, I'm like, wait, something's not making sense. If this does that, then this should do that. Otherwise, it's like, how are we coming up with this theory? Mm-hmm. Something's not making sense. And this is how it guides me. So sometimes I go back to things that are not even related to understand something from something else. So I'm extremely grateful for my pharmacy degree because sometimes I'm like, okay, if this medication does that, then that's what should happen if they take this. Yeah, and if it doesn't do that, then I'm like, something's off. And so it guides this. And so something was always picking up with vitamin D, not like, again, it's a gut feel. I'm like, something's off. I can't put my fingers on it.
But like off in which way? As I might not use the right term, like as the molecule, as what it is,
as the
or
effect.
As
the effect, or like, because they say that vitamin D.
So it's not vitamin D that provides what we believe it's vitamin D.
Look, listen, I'll give you an example. So we say that it starts from 7-dehydrocholesterol, 7-DHC. So all the images that you see is like 7-DHC, then you get UVBs, so the light, and then you get like the other reactions to vitamin D, right? So we're like, okay, it depends on the light. Me, I'm like,
but what take it away?
But what creates 7-DHC in the first place? Because the equation says that you need 7-DHC. So if you don't have that, you don't have vitamin D. Why are we only looking at the light? Where does that come from? So that's where I start questioning. That comes from cholesterol. So if your cholesterol is off, your vitamin D is off. So I check the drugs of cholesterol. I'm like, okay, so wait a second. And then if you take vitamin B6, it increases your level of vitamin D. So I'm like, is it really vitamin D the cause, the light, or the B6? Wait a second. So then it keeps me on going and going. And for example, magnesium is necessary for the conversion of vitamin D into an active form. So and they found studies of low magnesium correlated with low vitamin D levels. So if you're taking and too much vitamin D could lead to a deficiency in magnesium. So too much of it's very complex.
Yeah, no, I understand. So you need one to open up that one, but too much of this one is going to deplete.
I believe in balance. So everything of too much,
well, that's
for me,
everywhere.
is not, But same thing with vitamins. And even though I have a brand, I'm going to tell people sometimes like, hey, pause that. Don't do that right now. It's like, do this first, then go do that, then take a pause of 2 months and come back to that. And be like, whoa, what? Like, why? Because that's not what's written in an article on Google, or that's not, everyone says you should take vitamin D for XYZ. So but I get confirmation that it works from people, because how I confirm that it works is that either I don't hear from them because they're good, and I call back, I'm like, you're good? Like, oh my God, I forgot I wasn't feeling well. Thank you. So those are the kind of comments. Or doctors coming up to me, which today, it's a bit crazy. There's a doctor from a hospital I used to work for, like a pharmacist. So there's a case where I recommended supplements, and they came back to me, which I'm not even working there anymore, to see what I would do next because something happened.
Oh yeah.
So I'm like, okay, they trust that I understand how supplements work, but that's the thing. Like sometimes you're taking either too much or too little, or you can't just say like it's vitamins, it's like harmless. No, it does a reaction in your body. It does do something.
Yeah, no, definitely. I think, and I know we said we're not even going to talk about it. I don't want to talk about this pandemic, but there's a lot of reflections you do in your book in regards to that.
Yeah.
And do you think, let's say, because in many things, like we're promoted, let's say, to take a drug, a vaccine, and this and that, but there is also the cases of, let's say, if your metabolism is functioning well, if you're giving it everything that it requires, that you will be less
susceptible,
exactly, to catch it, and
Correct.
even a strong immune system.
Correct.
At that stage. So there were a lot of discussion about, let's say, well, hey, if you take care of yourself, maybe you don't need that, and those were the big argument of people that didn't want to take the vaccine. So do you think that would have been exactly, because vitamin D seems to be at the core of, let's say, this discussion, that if you would have supplemented on vitamin D during this period, you would have been less at risk?
I haven't read those studies specifically, because I contradict both ways. Same way, like I don't like, is it only vitamin D, or maybe you'd have taken like vitamin D with magnesium and this, and then it would have been better. So I haven't read that specific study to give a statement. What bothers me the most is not having options. And this is my whole message in general. Like, why aren't we proposed other options? Because other options can work. So that's the same way we're invalidating. Where someone tells me they drank a bottle of water and they felt better, I'm not going to tell them, no, that's not scientifically proven. I'll be like, do more of that, because I know it's harmless. If it's harmful, then I'll intervene. But if it's harmless, what's so wrong in letting people be? Exactly. So that's what bothers me a bit more, in terms of not offering any options to people and saying that is the ultimate. That goes the same way of, like, everything that is like too extreme for me is like, wait a second. And it doesn't even have to do if it works, if it doesn't work, if whatever, like I don't even question. I'm not getting into that. I look at like, why aren't we not speaking about the basics of the immune system? Why are we not, do we even understand it in the first place? Because if we would understand it, then wouldn't the vaccine work 100% of the time? So science is complex. I give you the point. Like it's something I thought was going to take me months, took me years. It's very complex when you start understanding how everything interacts. But then again, you can't look at science and healthcare without looking at everything interacting. Then you're missing something.
And that's why I'm up in, let's say, in that stage in your book. Like I said, I didn't finish it, but I find that every chapter you're just giving more and more and more and more. And at the end, I find that you're just going to say really what you're trying to say for the past chapters.
Yeah.
And I'm in around that area where you do question, like, why don't we have other options? And what are the other options? So we have the hierarchy, and then we have anarchy, and that's what I'm up to. So now you start like defining really what the difference
The
between both
human's
of them.
part of a system, and I think you need to understand that to understand where things come from. I tried to making it like really getting to the core gradually.
But I like the variety of topics that you touch in the book, because there's many things that I was able to follow along and relate at the same time. Like something that I started doing, an initiative I started doing maybe this year. As per myself, I'm a marketer, so I read a lot I observe, let's say, people's behavior on how you do things and what triggers you on this, really what makes you happy and what doesn't work. This is marketing, basically just reading people, really what you don't see. Along with reading people, I analyze a lot of the biases, and you talk about it, and you had a list of them. I was like, all right, let me go through them. And this is one of the initiatives of my content I wanted to do this, that I started doing. Like, I didn't pick up lately, but really discussing about the biases behind it, because once you understand really how people react, or really what trigger people, then you're able to, once again, in the marketing way, to persuade in a different direction how things are. And pharmaceutical has understood this, and then you question it. And in these multiple awakenings, let's say, because I know in the book you talk about, there's a part where I find that, I forgot what chapter, where you've just described that you just feel like you're breaking down, because
cognitive dissonance. That was a very difficult stage.
Exactly, that's the one that I had.
My brain was fighting. It was a fight, literally, in my brain. It's like, this is right, this is wrong, this is right, this is wrong. Like,
and your values don't match.
Very hard. Very hard. And I got shivers just saying this, but a lot of healthcare providers reached out privately.
I would imagine, because a lot of people are scared too.
Correct. And
these.
I'm more of a voice. So it's hard for me because I get smashed. But I feel it's part of my purpose too.
But you have thick skin too?
I could do it.
You do it.
So it was a very difficult time. That was a professional awakening. That's how I call it.
So that's one of them.
Correct. That, you know what I mean? So there's many awakening. There's awakening to the world in general, but I can't say you need to be in a world to awaken or to change perspectives. Like, I can't awaken from a world I'm unaware of. It's difficult to explain. But that was like something that it was my whole career that I'm like, wait a second. What are we really doing? And it came from failures for me too. So I'm like, okay, we failed this, we failed that. I'm seeing patients. What's up? So it just slaps you at a certain point.
Did you do you like The Matrix, the movies, the story? When's the last time you watched them when they came out, like everyone else?
My friend, when I was in Mexico, there's a girl, she's like, you should watch The Matrix, and I watched the fourth one.
I didn't like it.
And I'm like, I want to meet the director.
Yeah, they
understood something about life, and they lived things, because I saw through it.
You saw something?
I saw something, and I saw myself at a certain point. I'm like, oh, I relate there. So.
And the reason why I say this, because I guess we all watched these movies when they came out in the early 2000s, and that would make us teenager. We watch it. Well, it's cool. The science fiction behind the effects, everything is great. It's amazing. And I've rewatched them again. Let's say mature. Yeah. Understanding things more awake. Yeah. See, and the movies now you watch them, you see some messages behind. And that's why I'm asking, because I find like there's the moment that Neo is just there, like struggling and trying to understand really what is this, like this world that I'm telling this what it is, and this one, and once he's unplugged from, let's say, that bubble, where you awaken, because now you start seeing really what the real world is for base, what it is, see the machines, everything. Do you see things like in a similar situation? Every awakening that you have, like, open up your eyes to things that other people are just still blindly or just stuck on the condition to follow?
Yes. I believe, again, it happened to me in so many areas, like relationships, family, professional, spiritual, things that I thought I believed. And that's where my intuition kicks in. Because I'm like, I listened to a lot of people. You conditioned yourself to listen to those, thinking it like the same way when people use the terms matrix, they use the terms this, they use the terms like, I'm not someone trying, I don't see things as separations. It's like people are like, this is right, this is wrong. Me, I'm like, who are you to say who's right, who's wrong?
Exactly.
This is how I see things.
Yeah.
So you want to categorize as 5D, 6D, double D, whatever you want to call, like, those are labels for me. At the end of the day, like, are we even able to have a conversation about things that we don't necessarily know how to define yet? Like, I don't like the hate and the, instead of like, because we did see a separation happen with these like awakened and these unwoke.
Yeah.
And like, we hear this on social and stuff like that. But instead of looking down and saying like, because there's a lot of, I don't like the belittling in that kind of separation thing.
In
like,
neither one of the sides.
Exactly. So how about bringing in your perspective without, you can't push someone to change. This is something I've understood. So you meet people, and I meet people sometimes, and I'm like, I could, and I have triggers. Obviously, like, I'm not better, again, really not. Sometimes you're like, oh, they haven't healed that.
There's something about change that you said that just came to my attention. A quote that I heard about change is, don't force someone to change. Instead, give them the option of something better so they can make the change by themselves.
Yes.
And then see that really that they needed to make a change.
You can't push someone to, like, you could get angry. You could, like, those are emotions that are ruining you. So how is that even bringing better to your own life? Like, just by hating or by, you know, so I know some things can be frustrating, but working on yourself, I think, is the best way for the better world, and managing your own emotions, anger, or whatever that is regarding a certain situation or person. Could be relationship, could be governmental, could be anything.
What are things that you're working on yourself now that you find that you still need some improvements?
Understanding the messages I get.
When people disagree with you, or
no, no, that I'm okay. Trying to work like more, because I'm very good alone. So social life, managing that. There's things like that. Managing my energies also.
You're good alone, but you don't feel lonely
at all.
You enjoy yourself. Would you rather, let's say, spend more time alone than with people, or you're okay by balancing?
Decent balance, but I'm not someone that's gonna need to have a lot of social life to be well.
That doesn't drive you. It's just
no, like I've been out, I've done that, and it's okay. And I think I just got to another. I think it's another chapter of my life. Let's put it that way, where I do a lot of introspection, try to understand, and when that is more. I need that now in my life. Like, I need that introspection. I write every day. I need that growth, that constant growth on things. So really more managing energies, I would say, and understanding. So not to feel depleted, how to protect our spiritual boundaries.
I wrote some questions. I want to see if they're still relevant to the conversation. Sure. Well, I have something about system justification that I picked up on. Hold on, I just want to see if it makes sense. All right, we could talk about the holistic approach.
Sure.
That's a good one, because that's something I approached you on and that I saw too. Me too. I find that this podcast has opened doors to conversation and to network that I never thought it would bring me to that point. And I enjoy, actually, I'm very glad you're here.
Thank you so much for having me.
Because we're having a bomb-ass conversation. Never thought, I didn't think what way it was going to go, what direction it was going to go. Yeah. And I know in myself, like, let me see where I could dig. Like, I don't want to be too much by the book. I want it to be fluent, natural. And so far, I find that we're connecting pretty well. Our energies are in line. talk about energies before I get to the holistic thing. I remember once regarding the substance, you take substance and to get to a higher. This one time I was with my two friends. One of them is like my co-host, and another one is just this very spiritual guy. He just will take you in a walk to the star. Like something that doesn't even make sense. And we just having drink. It's summertime. It's hot, hot, hot. And I'm smoking a little. I smoke weed. It helps me reach, let's say, that other. There's a door that opens.
Yeah.
Talk about 420, guys. As we're recording, this is 420. Brought to you by Let's do this. Like, pay me. Non, ce podcast est présenté par la distillerie de Montréal Rosemont, où est-ce que vous allez avoir des conversations comme celle-là que vous entendez en ce moment. And I'm just going to say in English, only because I haven't said, but Rosemont will bring the conversation out to you, and I'm glad that we're doing it naturally. But the fumes of the Rosemont spirit.
Yes.
To get back to the discussion. So, and the conversation just went like banana. It just went out, and we're talking about energy frequencies. And there's a pattern. Like I have a sound, like a sound background, I study sound waves, things like that, how to mix, how to record sound, things like anything that's related to the topic of sound. I studied it. And there's obviously the conversation of wave frequencies, the lows, the highs, the mids. It begins, let's say, at 0, you don't hear nothing. The rumbling at 30, but then the past the 12,000 hertz, you don't hear anymore, only because our ears is not adapted to it. And in the 20s, like some other things, so it's like that spectrum of 0 to 20. Yeah. And when you understand these, it's like higher the frequency, the tighter the wave. Mm-hmm. As you go down the spectrum, on the low end, the wave is just a big, it's just apart. Yeah. And the conversation we're having there is like how society seems to be, and how people how can I become something, or loreach the awakening? Let's call it like that, just to go along with the conversation. Well, tend to be more in the lower spectrum, only because the concentration of the people, you find them all tight together and higher. So those, when you see them everywhere. But then in the base area, this is where you don't have that many. It's not that much base around. It's going to be in the mids. But in the lower spectrum, since the wave is longer, this is where, let's say, humans that are very different, let's call them weirdos, hang in that lower spectrum, only because there's less. And as we were discussing being drunk and all, like we started drawing it. As I was drawing, it's like, that's why I felt like, you know what, us and these people that understand really what we're doing, that other people don't understand, we tend to be in that base area, that lower frequency where you don't hear it much. It's not that many, but only a few reach that level. And in order to, let's say, to reach that level, basically you at the top in the high frequencies, you need to start slowly diverge into the mids. You start awakening, you start, understanding things, start seeing things differently. You send yourself apart from the high ones where everyone is tight all together, and then you end up just like at the bottom where, in this group of weirdos where, damn, we're having this conversation about these things. And it just, it brought me that conversation to the frequencies.
Did you reach that part in the book?
Nope.
Part 4 is frequencies.
See, this is where I haven't reached it, but
it's funny because I a lot of people saying that high frequency is the ultimate, and I obviously question that. So
obviously,
there's question, but it's more about healthcare and like the ultimate being. You'll enjoy part 4, I believe.
Okay.
Because I do speak about frequencies and different types of cancers have frequencies, drugs have frequencies. It's super interesting.
Oh.
Super interesting.
Oh. Okay.
Yeah.
Now I look forward to read it.
Yeah, I think you'll enjoy it.
I don't even know if my theory makes sense. It's only something that you saw in the one time I opened this
I
door.
don't contradict.
But you listen. I see you like you're
Like,
trying to
interesting.
put in.
It's a concept that I'm not sure yet.
And I was telling you about this other lady that came to the podcast, M. Duchamp. Shout out. We had a conversation about frequencies too, and she opened up to this world of I guess, like things I even understand, masculine and feminine.
Feminine energy, yes.
What's your take on that? Is it something that you reflect on? Is something
Absolutely. I balance my energies. I'm an alpha woman, but I'm very feminine.
Seem like it too.
So it's hard for I'm often in the masculine, but a lot of the manifestation works in feminine. So receiving, it's a balance of things, and I think it does impact a lot in terms of relationship as well.
Alpha woman. Do you have a lot of masculine energy? If we see
correct, like I love hustling. Hustle is more masculine, but I enjoy it. So I need to balance it out with the feminine. Like when I get home. So if I would have a relationship where the man is very feminine, it would imbalance me, because I would still be hustling at home. Like I'm not having a balance.
So would you
again going back to my theory of balancing with different people? So if it's too much in the masculine, too much in the feminine, none is good. Man and woman have both.
If I may ask, are you currently in a relationship?
No.
Not to get too personal.
No.
So in your case, would you need, let's say, what we consider an alpha male?
Correct.
Or to match
I need like
your relationship?
A man that would be very masculine and alpha. I am more attracted to alpha men.
Okay. And what is something very masculine that you find on a man that?
Self-confidence, the hustle, the self-confidence is big just on its own, because I'm some people would find me intimidating, or some
I can understand too. At the same time, like,
and those are comments I received. It's not like, it doesn't come from me. It's like people told me. I'm like, really? Like how? So I understand that if the person in front is intimidated, then the energies are imbalanced. It's not like I don't think against you. You know what I mean? But it's just it's gonna clash. And now I know it. Like you just sense it right away.
Yeah.
So the same way about someone, it's the same kind of knowing that you can transmit. But we often people don't listen. Like they know the relationship's not good. They know things, but they still go. Same thing with business partnerships. Same thing with humans. Like this knowing, extremely powerful. Just versus in so intuition. Many ways. Yeah.
But knowing the stage, if I understood your description of knowing, is like knowing in the ahead.
Kind of.
So it's like this knowing that you're referring now is like you already know that it's going to go there.
There's two things, yeah. There's an intuition and knowing. Could I haven't sat down and thought of this, but could it be different?
You're doing it right now.
There's a knowing of, like, there's a reception knowing, and there's a projecting knowing. I'm coming up with this now. Because when you meet someone, that's like a reception. You're getting something. And even before... Well,
but is it going to be intuition? Is it going to react at that point and when you see someone coming to you?
It's funny because there's things that, and it's written in my journals, it's like, I knew I was going to meet that specific person that I spoke with in July and November, and it happened. It was a knowing that I knew back then. So is that a reception of intuition, or if that was a knowing? That's very difficult. I have to sit down on that and think about it.
All right. Let's take this exchange that we're having.
Are you going to make me read stuff?
Is it a knowing? Is it intuition?
I just had a good vibe, so I'm like, I'm going to come.
Okay.
I don't overthink everything necessarily.
That's a bit just of...
But this, I find it's interesting about the knowing and intuition, and I think there is a difference. It's very subtle.
No, I see what you mean, the subtle behind it.
That's
why I want to dig into it really.
Same thing with manifestation, knowing, intuition. Like, I think it's different concepts that are a bit interlaced, but they're different.
Can you classify the knowing into a masculine or feminine energy position?
Usually women have more intuition just because they're more in tune.
So that's my feminine energy, me being very intuitive?
Not necessarily. Some would describe it as so. I'm not sure. I think men could have a lot of intuition. We could put it into feminine, yes.
Okay.
But it's not negative. because you can
No.
balance it out with another. Yeah. Voila.
Holistic.
Yeah.
We're jumping in a lot of chapters. Still have time. Good.
Yeah, let's put
10
it
minutes?
at
I don't even know.
8 minute, like, and we close?
Yeah, all
We're
right,
good?
cool. Yeah,
Okay, cool.
perfect. Already. Holistic.
Yes.
Something that did caught my attention, well, that attracted me to you, I guess, energies in a way, is that I started following you, and there's a post that popped. I was like, who is that? And I don't see that many people also that on LinkedIn that have, let's say, the doctor title. I was like, all right, who is that? Started seeing some of your content pop up, and I saw content. All right, cool. And I see you're a different from the rest of the LinkedIn noise. You're not the.
I take that as a compliment.
It is. Honestly, it is. Because, and it's a good thing. I think I'm doing a lot more thing on LinkedIn. I find that what I'm doing maybe is, jumping out there. I always know is, hey, how do you do this better on your profession? Sometimes you need to loosen up and have some fun. But things like, I find that you differentiate yourself on your content, and that's all right. Start following.
Thank you.
I saw your content. All right. The vitamin D. Boom. All right. Something in it. I was like, I want to talk to her then. Because the vitamin D, this is where I approached the holistic approach that I understood that maybe in myself I practiced, but I unknowingly aware of it.
Mm-hmm.
So I discovered holistic is just like more the alternative medicine of things. And you talk a lot about it in your book.
Mm-hmm.
And it's something that I guess aligns with your belief to have the option that, maybe I don't need this.
Mm-hmm.
And I would like maybe to heal myself in a different approach, something more natural, right? Is that being holistic?
Natural is, I don't like to use natural, although a lot of people like it, because natural could be dangerous. Heroin, morphine come from natural sources.
So what would be...
So there's a misconception about natural being good. There's other ways. I put it as options for wellness that are not necessarily pharmaceutical drugs. And that could be as much as meditation, because holistic it's very broad. Holistic means just like a lot. It's not like there's many ways that could lead to Rome. Not saying that that's the ultimate way. Again, it goes back to what I was saying in terms of options.
There's an option.
Really.
Holistic is
There's different
option.
ways. There's no one way that's the best. And the same way where I'm going to be a contrarian regarding one way thing in the pharmaceutical, I'm going to be a contrarian with the holistic and the natural and all these ways where everyone should be taking vitamin D because someone decided to say it that has an authority that is like, I'm like, wait a second. Does vitamin D even do possibly negative things or not? Or is it, So I question things on both ways, which I'm not like, I do believe in the holistic and in other ways to heal. I do believe in self-healing. I do believe, like now I intuitively take supplements, which is very difficult. It's something I'm trying to teach people, but it's very difficult in a way. Like one day I'm going to wake up, I'm not going to necessarily take the same things every day. And people are like, how do you do that? I'm like, oh, okay, intuition. Ooh, how do I explain this? I'm very in tune with my body. I understand how my body works. Now I'm more into veggies. I was more eating meat before. And now I change. I'm like, I'm in a phase where, and it varies because you're in an environment that's constantly changing. Your stress level changes. So how are you eating the same thing, taking the same supplements and not adapting to? I'm more like of a flow, and I do this with my supplements too. I'm going to take collagen. I took collagen with vitamin C 3-4 days last week, and now today I skipped it. Tomorrow I'm not sure. I'm going to see how I feel. So it really goes into, and sometimes it is important to take it on a regular, do a full body collagen for the whole bottle and then reassess. And I say this to my parents and everyone at the same time, gauge it. The way I see things in holistic, I really go more at the cause. It's like, okay, you have a headache, you want to take Tylenol. Tylenol is patching. It's not
exactly, you're not healing it.
It's not telling you what's the cause, because if you patch it with Tylenol, but you still have that deficiency or that thing before, you're still going to use Tylenol because you're not. So then it creates that dependency on something that's not necessarily right. So when we go back to it, I'm like, okay, so what could cause or what are other possibilities? So what I found, and it's actually being used in hospital now, like vitamin B2 for headaches, magnesium, or a pinch of salt with water. So usually I do that. So if I have a headache, I'll put a pinch of water with salt. I'll drink that. And if after like half an hour,
salt?
Himalayan salt, not the white one.
Himalayan.
Yeah, I don't like the white one. And a pinch, like really like a little thing. Still there because the dehydration and stuff like that. So, and then if it stays there, I do have magnesium that I keep with me pretty much all the time. I don't take that like as candies, obviously. I'll take one in a day if ever that's the case. So I pop 150 milligrams of magnesium biglycinate. Again, like this is a podcast, so I got to make sure it's okay for you with healthcare providers and there's no interactions with the drugs you take if you do take drugs, et cetera, et cetera. Magnesium, then if not, then I'll take a B complex like in the morning the next day if the headache is still there. And haven't used Tylenol in the past 3 years, if not more.
And in a business, let's say, sense, when I started doing marketing,
Correct.
That's one thing I brought to you. Like last year, I was involved into selling a product.
Yeah.
Well, marketing a product was a glutathione, and I didn't know anything about it. And when I discovered, I researched because I obviously, if I want to sell something, I need to be able to be educated on the matter, really what it does. And it kind of opened up to many rabbit holes once understood that. I understood also the political part of it.
Correct.
Which that one, I was like, this is where I started understanding things like, why is it not being spoken? Because I've discovered a lot of benefit from this thing, from this protein, I guess, that we all have.
Glutathione's an antioxidant.
Exactly.
Yeah. And
the benefits out of it, too, is like, it does so much benefit. Why this is not being spoken about? And then the political part of everything, and that's why I started getting more into, let's say, the holistic. Because I did a podcast with a Filipino doctor, and he's very into alternative medicine, and he over there the culture is completely different, and where they do things and they push more these approaches. And that's something that he did. Like his skin was flawless. No, older guy, Asian too on top of that. So Asian don't age.
Yeah.
But you could tell he's old, but he just looked like a Barbie doll.
Nice.
But he's just telling me about all these approaches. Like it's something that he's been doing for over 20 years. But he said the effect of really what it does. And he said, like, I don't go to take all these stuff. I just take some glutathione and do this and do that, and that's it.
Yeah.
And I find these are things that are not being shared enough.
I'm here.
And that's why I brought you here. Because I find, like, I could talk about it, but I'm an idiot. I don't know shit about it. I'm educated, but I still have, to the eyes of other people, you don't have their
you
certifications.
To the eyes of people.
I felt like, you know what, bringing someone that has actually the background, the academic background that people will say, all right, maybe I could be intimidated by really what you're saying, because you're speaking more facts than all in their conscience or really what they saw on social media. So I felt like it was interesting to have that discussion. Yeah. Maybe the discussion will happen.
I mean, I came up with my line because it's literally products I use. Because you look at the products, but you look at the toxicity things too, because they have heavy metals. Like, there's a lot of things to consider, because it's not an industry that's very regulated. You got to be careful. You buy your stuff on Amazon, I don't know.
I was selling on Amazon too.
There's different things about, like, Amazon came up with articles about products being fake, about products having heavy metals. So if you're taking those on a daily basis, you got to be really careful of what you're consuming, because then you're maybe patching and creating another problem.
I like the term that you use, patching. So you're just putting something over it, like a Band-Aid, but you're not fixing the problem. You're not
fixing the issue.
And the problem is further than just really what you're missing. Yeah. I find in many cases, I'm a type of person that I believe in mind over body, self-healing, like you mentioned. I find that one of the reasons I work out regularly, at first, when in your early 20s, you do it for the looks. But then you start understanding you're more mature. And, I'm trying to live even longer, further, and do things better. And I find that you need to take actions today, and these actions have to be based on these action, this natural action, like working out. I love working my cardio, because I find that the day that my heart can pump as much blood as possible and oxygen in my body, I'm not going to be as efficient being a person that wants to do a million things, but I have to do it the most efficiently as possible. So in order to do it, your body needs to be on point. There's a machine, but most importantly, the mental needs to be flawless.
Yeah. And you'll enjoy my TED tomorrow. Because the mental is another domain. Let's put it that way.
That department is hard. And that's the hardest one.
I like hacking.
I love hacking too.
I was able to hack myself. And I have proved that I hacked other people in ways that I'm like, okay, so it works. So, yeah.
All right. So I guess we're going to be on a TED Talk for the rest. Hey, Stephanie, that was an amazing conversation.
Was amazing. Thank you so much.
Oh, my God.
Thank you.
That was
unexpected.
Unexpected. Honestly, this podcast is unique. We broke the ice a few times in many things. First of all, is the first English version podcast that we do of Yellow Seat Podcast.
Amazing.
First one, you broke it. My first doctor in the Yellow Seat.
Really?
Yes.
Okay, cool.
Second break.
Cool.
Third break, your book. I got to know you even before I got to know you.
Thank you.
By picking your mind.
Thanks for reaching out.
Finally, I find that our discussion was very pertinent to really many things and to discovering the outer power that we can manifest ourselves.
You can do anything you want.
Well, thank you. And I guess, guys, the TED Talk, by the time we publish this, when the TED Talk is going to be published?
I think it's 2-3 weeks after.
Okay.
Around that.
So once you watch this, don't forget to tune in to her TED Talk, Stephanie Elle on TED Talk. I don't know if there's other keywords we should punch in. That should be enough.
Mental health.
Mental health. Oh, okay. Spiritual. Well, thank you very much. Welcome again.
Thank you so much.
It's a pleasure discovering you, and I think we're going to do this some other time. Again,
pleasure.
So much to go. Thank you.
Thank you.